everyone. I'm a veterinarian from Anexa in Morrinsville, dealing mainly with dairy cattle. And Johne's is a subject that's very dear to my heart, if you like. I'm going to discuss management practices on farm. Why would we want to control Johne's disease? You lose production and you lose cows. So cow loss, production loss, and reproduction loss. If we go back to the clinical cases, they really are the tip of an iceberg. So a cow looking like this, who's a clinical Johne's disease, is the progression from these ones down here who are subclinical but are infected. So the clinical girl is the tip of an iceberg. And for every cow that develops like this in your herd, there will be between 15 and 25 other cows who are subclinical within the herd. Johne's disease is spread by poos. And they don't look like this. They are liquid, horrible poos. And as dairy farmers, we do a very good job of spreading cow poos all over the place. So here's our irrigator, shooting it out over the ground. Here we are in the shed. Hopefully your cow tails don't look like this, but just remember about Johne's disease. If you trim your cow's tails, that shit's being flicked less places and spreading it in less places. So it's also spread by colostrum, and that can be directly because the mat is, so the bacteria that causes Johne's is in the colostrum, or it can be because those wonderful cow poos get in the colostrum. So colostrum in buckets is usually not clean. It can also be in the milk, and there is a very low incidence of intrauterine spread. So cows that have clinical or subclinical Johne's will actually infect their calf before it's born, so in utero. When the cow poos look like this for your clinically infected animals, every gram of that feces has up to 1 million in it. So that's the bacteria that are infective. And if we allow cows to get like this in our herd, apart from it being a welfare case and they have to go to pet food, we are spreading those mats all over the farm. Everywhere that cow goes, she shares out her disease. You say, well, okay, I get the odd Johne's cow. Why would I bother to control it? I've never perceived it to be a problem. We know from research that if you do nothing about Johne's disease, unless you have very good management practices in place, they prevent the transmission. In years, your number of infected animals will double. So how are we going to stop this problem? Basically, we've said it several times, the most susceptible animals are the young stock, particularly young calves. So if we can keep them away from adult cow poos, we're going to do a good job in stopping the breeding. So that means keeping the calves clean. So if they can calve onto nice clean breaks where there aren't lots of cow poos, or they can be picked up quickly after birth and put in a nice clean calf shed, that's going to help you. We don't feed colostrum or milk from infected cows. So to do that, it means we need to test the animals. We've divided the control policies up into the different ages of animals. So in the main herd, the main way you would start to control Johne's disease is to do an annual herd test using the milk ELISA, and then any clinical cases that are seen developing, it's important that you test them and cull them as soon as possible to stop those poos going all over the place. If you decide that you've got a real risk of Johne's coming into the herd, you can test the heifers before they join the herd. We can't test them when they're baby calves and give you an answer then like we do for BVD. So in the calves up to 30 days of age, but also before they're a year old, they are very susceptible to infection. And we want to prevent them coming into contact with infected cow poos. So if you pick them up more frequently, they're not going to wander around the calving break and get poos in their mouth. Your colostrum, if you can only use colostrum from known non-infected animals, you're going to reduce the risk of spreading Johne's to the calves. Water. If there are cow poos in water, the calves will drink it and they will get Johne's disease if those poos contain the bacteria. So some people do choose to pasteurize the milk if they're using cow milk and colostrum to reduce the risk of Johne's disease being in the milk. That's one option you can look at. You can look at feeding them milk powder once the colostrum period has passed instead of milk. And it's very important that you look at your replacement calves and don't keep any that have come out of an infected cow. Once the calves are older than 30 days, you don't graze them on your home farm, you're going to have reduced the risk of them being Johne's. And really importantly, don't graze them on the effluent paddocks. Often the effluent paddocks are close to the shed, and we so often see calves being let out around the calf shed. That's a complete no-no if you want to control Johne's disease meaningfully. So keep them in the shed. Don't take cow poos into the shed, either in the milk, in the feed, or in the water, and then take them off the milking platform. Also, look at the platform you're taking them to. So if you're taking them to a beef and sheep farm where they have infected animals and they're not grazed on designated dairy grazing areas, you risk the animals on the farm actually infecting your animals. So you need to look at the biosecurity of your grazing. And also look at supplemental feed sources. So if they're contaminated with feces, particularly baled silage, which doesn't have a very low pH and doesn't kill things well, then you risk contaminating your animals and them eating the bacteria. The biosecurity is really important. You need to look at any animals you bring on farm. The tests are not 100%, but they are a help. So if you buy in replacement stock or bring bulls on farm, they should be tested for Johne's disease. Look at other incoming products and do remember that Johne's disease affects many other species. So it affects goats, sheep, deer, and also some non-ruminant species such as rabbits and hares. So you do need to look at the other sources of bacteria for your animals. If you work hard to control Johne's disease, you will reduce the number of cases significantly. Eradication is very difficult, but it's well worthwhile reducing the economic loss by putting control measures in place.